Welcome once again to another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. How is everybody doing on this Tuesday night? You are listening to us on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key out of Noonan, Georgia. And we have got a great show for you as the MLB trade deadline just passed. I also have my NFL 32 teams in 32 days as I will preview the Pittsburgh Steelers and I will reveal my top 10 college football teams getting ready for the college football season. And we got plenty of high school football to talk about as well as local sports that's happening in and around the Chattahoochee Valley, to include the SBL Championship that is happening tomorrow. First pitch, 7:05 at historic Golden Park. And we want to pack the park because admission is free, courtesy of Buffalo Rock and Pepsi. $2 hot dogs. There's going to be a huge merch blowout sale. You can get an upgrade to your seat for just $3. So come on out and root for the Columbus Chattahoots at historic Golden Park. Wednesday, 7:05 is the first pitch. And if you can't make it to the ballpark for some reason, you can catch the game on 106.9 Really Rocks in Columbus. Or if you're up in the Noonan area, you could catch the game on WQEE 99.1 FM, which is also where you could find this show Monday through Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. I had a great show yesterday. I had my crossover show as Rod Peterson joined me as a guest, and that was a lot of fun. And you could hear him from 12 to 2, and then he hopped up on my show, and it was pretty cool. Just a reminder, I'm going to be on Rod Peterson's show on Thursday, right around 1:40 if you want to catch that. It's going to be about 20 minutes before the start of my show, and I'm really excited about that. And I'm also excited about Muskogee County Media Days for high school football. I cannot believe high school football is 16 days away, if you count the Corky Kell Classic. And that first game in the Chattahoochee Valley is going to be August the 17th as LaGrange taking on Carver of Atlanta. And then on Friday, I'm going to preview Week 10. But I'm also going to preview that first week of all the regular season games in high school football, the entire schedule. It's coming out to include the big games in Georgia and the big games in Alabama, and we've got a slate of them. Week 1 is always fascinating because there are so many high school football games that I really want to attend, but obviously I can't attend them all, and hopefully I'll try to get score updates as I'll have my podcast and making sure that we have a high school scoreboard show so you are all informed. All right, let's get into the Major League Baseball trade deadline. It is passed. The winner is the Houston Astros. I don't know how they got Justin Verlander back. He was the big free agent prize that the New York Mets got in the offseason. And for some reason, the New York Mets decided it ain't working out. They decided to give Justin Verlander back to the Houston Astros in a trade. And, now the Houston Astros can try to compete for the AL West because the Texas Rangers, they got Max Scherzer. So I said that the Texas Rangers were my favorites to represent the American League in the World Series. I'm looking at the Houston Astros, and I'm thinking, now that they got Justin Verlander, I think the Houston Astros could be the favorites to reach the World Series in the American League. The Braves got another bullpen right at the trade deadline. Brad Hand joins a staff that's starting to get healthy. Max Fried might be joining the team in Chicago. The Atlanta Braves, they did defeat the Los Angeles Angels at Anaheim 5-1 today, thanks to 2 home runs by Michael Harris III. And there was also a solo shot by Orlando Arcia. The Atlanta Braves, Spencer Strider, the all-star pitcher, is now 12-3 on the season as he takes the win. And the Atlanta Braves are 68-37. And they got a huge road trip coming up. An 11-game road trip that includes a trip to Wrigley, a 4-game series with the Pittsburgh Pirates, up in Flushing, Queens to take on the New York Mets. Their next home game is not until August the 14th when they take on the New York Yankees for a 3-game series. And then that weekend, August 18th, 19th, and 20th, they are taking on the San Francisco Giants. That's always fun for me because I am a San Francisco Giants fan. And so the Atlanta Braves, as they try to make a push in August, and hopefully they get all their starters back, including Kyle Wright, Max Fried. I think the Braves are going to be a dangerous team in the National League, especially since they are cruising with the best record in the National League. They have a business special Wednesday at 12:20 as they try to wrap up this series with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And you have so many moves happening in Major League Baseball. A.J. Pollock goes to the Giants. Giants are trying to be buyers. And as we get closer to the playoffs in Major League Baseball, it's really these trade deadlines, these moves that happen after the trade deadline, like the waiver wire picks, that could determine, that puts teams over the top. And I actually think that with Major League Baseball trades, that it definitely could go down. Right now, I think that my two favorite teams to reach the World Series is the Texas Rangers and the Atlanta Braves. But there are some teams, like, do not underestimate the Dodgers. The Dodgers are a dangerous team, even though they don't have Cody Bellinger anymore. They don't have Justin Turner. They still have Freddie Freeman and Jason Hayward. All of a sudden, the Dodgers trying to be the Braves West, with two of my favorite players in the early 2010s now wearing Dodger blue. That's just not right. And I think the Dodgers are a real player in the race for home field advantage in the National League. And the San Francisco Giants are right behind them. And it's a 3-team race in the NL West with the Giants and the Diamondbacks. And then over in the National League Central, you really cannot count out the St. Louis Cardinals, the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, the Cardinals could make a push, even though their record does not really show that they have done anything. But, looking at the Major League Baseball standings, because this is where it stands right now. Over in the American League East, the Baltimore Orioles with a 1.5-game lead over the Tampa Bay Rays. They have the best record in the American League with a 66-41 record, followed by the Tampa Bay Rays, who struggled a little bit, but they've won 3 straight. They're getting back on track. And you also have teams like the Toronto Blue Jays, Boston, and the Yankees that all have winning records. And the Yankees are in last place. They're 11 games behind the Baltimore Orioles. Over in the AL Central, the Minnesota Twins have a 2-game lead over the Cleveland Guardians. In the AL West, you got a tight race between the Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros. The Astros are only a half game behind the Texas Rangers. And then you have Seattle and then the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim that picked up some big moves at the trade deadline. The Angels trying to make that playoff push. And I'm very interested to see how the Angels do. Over in the NL East, the Braves have an 11-game lead on the Philadelphia Phillies, a 12.5-game lead on the Miami Marlins. The Phillies have won 2 straight. And then right now, with the Cincinnati Reds leading the Milwaukee Brewers by 1 game, the Cubs are just 5 back. And the bottom of the NL Central, the Pirates and the Cardinals. I'm a little disappointed with the Cardinals that they have a 47-61 record. The Cardinals have always been a very consistent team in the past 20 years. In the NL West, you got the Dodgers, Giants, and the Diamondbacks. The Padres are the most disappointing team in the National League. I think they spent all that money to get Manny Machado, Juan Soto, and Fernando Tatis Jr., and they're only 52-55. And then the Colorado Rockies have the worst record in the National League. So it's disappointing, but it's nice to see that the Giants and Dodgers are kind of in a pennant race like in 2021. And I just want to see the Giants do well. The Dodgers are playing the A's. The Giants, they lost to the Diamondbacks. That's another team you got to watch out for. All right. It is about that time here on the show. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break for the radio station. We're going to pay some bills. And when we come back, I'm going to have my NFL 32 teams in 32 days. Yes, I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, the team that's won 6 Super Bowls. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing record. That Pittsburgh Steelers, who has to play my San Francisco 49ers week 1. Oh, that's going to be a very interesting game. All right, you don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. You're listening to us on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key. We are on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. It is Tuesday night. This is going to be rebroadcasted Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday through Friday on WQEE. Wednesday show. This is going to be aired from 2 to 3. Right on after Rod Peterson, right before Braves Country Today with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. It's that time of the show where I have my NFL 32 teams in 32 days. And I'm going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this week, I'm going to be talking about teams in the AFC North. I'm wrapping this thing up because the season is approaching. I mean, it doesn't start until September, but we got preseason football this Thursday night. The New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns, all the talk about Aaron Rodgers and defending his offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, because Sean Payton, he's been saying some stuff about the former Denver Broncos head coach. Yeah, I listened to it on Colin Cowherd. But anyway, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I got a lot of friends who are Steelers fans. I don't dislike the Steelers at all. I've always admired what the Steelers have done as a franchise. I mean, first of all, their GM is a genius. He finds hidden gems later on in rounds, and the Pittsburgh Steelers got like a gem in George Pickens last year. I know he didn't put up crazy numbers, but he had some incredible catches, and if you throw him the ball, he is going to be an elite wide receiver. I think George Pickens could be a top 10 wide receiver. Let's recap last year. All right, so the Pittsburgh Steelers, all right, they went 9-8 last year. Yes, they did miss out on the playoffs, but it was another non-losing season for head coach Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin has been there since 2007. He has never had a losing season. Sure, he's had a couple of 8-8 seasons, but he has never had a losing season. The Pittsburgh Steelers, this historic franchise who has won 6 Super Bowls. They've only had 3 head coaches in their entire existence. The Rooney family is loyal. They love Mike Tomlin. He is a player's coach. And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though they're in a tough division, they're the type of team that will hit you in the mouth. I know you got to deal with the Cincinnati Bengals now that with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, they have a very good team. The Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. And some people even think the Cleveland Browns might be good with Deshaun Watson, but we'll see. So when Ben Roethlisberger retired, the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round. And he really was the one quarterback that has shown promise that he could play. They had a little bit of a quarterback controversy last year with Kenny Pickett and Mitchell Trubisky. All in all, they finished 9-8. I mean, that wasn't bad for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And even though, they started off 2-6, and they got better because this is what Mike Tomlin teams do. They develop and they get better toward the end of the season. And that's what they did. And even though Mitchell Trubisky was 2-3 as a starter, Kenny Pickett 7-5 as a starter. Yes, he had 7 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, but they had a very special running back, Najee Harris, the former Alabama Crimson Tide. I like Jaylen Warren. Their wide receivers last year. George Pickens, he had 800 receptions, 800 yards. He had 52 receptions. Deontay Johnson, also, they didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver, but you don't really need a 1,000-yard receiver to be in the Pittsburgh offense. I think that Pat Freiermuth was a fascinating tight end, and the Steelers have always been a physical defense. That's how they were able to win 2 Super Bowls, because their defense was an all-time defense. So let's go over the depth chart for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's start with Kenny Pickett. He's going to develop a little bit better in year 2. Kenny Pickett is one of those quarterbacks. He can be a game manager. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback, but he is going to flourish as long as the Steelers allow him to. They got a new OC, Matt Canada, the former offensive coordinator at LSU. He's coming in, and anytime Mike Tomlin has an offensive coordinator, they didn't like Todd Haley for some reason. Right now, he's currently the Memphis Showboats head coach. But Matt Canada, his offense works in the NFL. And so Kenny Pickett, he's got weapons all around him, starting with Najee Harris. He is their running back. He's an elite running back. He's definitely going to make the Pro Bowl eventually. But Najee Harris is just that type of running back that, insert Alabama running back with the exception of Trent Richardson and maybe Eddie Lacy because he did get hurt. Najee Harris is that guy. You look at all the Alabama running backs in the NFL, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry. Najee Harris is up there in that group. And he's had a great season last year with the Steelers. Their wide receivers are pretty good. Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and newly acquired Allen Robinson II that came over in a trade from the Rams. He was the Bears' top wide receiver. He goes to the Rams last year. A lot of people thought that he was going to be an upgrade, and finally Matthew Stafford has his replacement from Odell Beckham Jr. That wasn't the case. He disappeared last year. Now he's under a new system. He's going to play slot receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Pat Freiermuth, I got to make sure to try to get him as a fantasy tight end because he is going to be sneaky good this year. I think that Kenny Pickett's going to rely on him a lot in red zone situations. And I look at this Steelers offensive line. Yes, no Pouncey, no DeCastro. I mean, they're gone. They've retired. The Steelers have always took pride in their offensive line. Isaac Sumaka. You got Broderick Jones, the rookie. He's the left tackle. Mason Cole, James Daniels, Chikome O'Keefer, and that was the offensive line. Not too much on there. I mean, they are missing David DeCastro. He was just a Pro Bowl guard / center for the Pittsburgh Steelers for a decade. And now let's look at the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, because they have one of the best defensive players in all of football, T.J. Watt. And when he was healthy last year, the Steelers were a hard team to beat. I still think they have the best free safety in all of football, Mika Fitzpatrick, who was a game wrecker. And, I'm going to get into that 49ers-Steelers game that's going to happen week 1, because the last time the Steelers played the 49ers, the Steelers punched them in the mouth. You have Larry Ojungbe, Keanu Benton, the rookie. Cameron Hayward is a solid D tackle. T.J. Watt at the linebacker position. Cole Holcomb, Aladdin Edwards, and Alex Highsmith. And they have a corner who's going to make an impact, a rookie corner from Penn State, Joey Porter Jr. Now, like his dad played linebacker for the Steelers. Joey Porter Jr. is a little bit smaller than his dad. He's going to play quarter. He's going to be a lockdown quarter. DeMonte Casey, he had an impact when he was playing with the Falcons. He led the Falcons with interceptions, went to go play for the Dallas Cowboys under Dan Quinn's defense, and now he becomes a free agent. He's now with the Steelers. I talked about Minka Fitzpatrick. The Dolphins just gave up on him. The Steelers got a gem when Minka Fitzpatrick got traded from the Miami Dolphins to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the big free agent from Minnesota, Patrick Peterson, at one time he was the best lockdown corner in all of football. And then Levi Wallace coming over from the Buffalo Bills. So the Steelers have a very underrated defense. And that's why I want to talk about this schedule, because I have been penciling this game. I cannot wait for this game, even though when I did my preview for the San Francisco 49ers, I picked the 49ers to win this game. But I'm a little nervous about this game. It's on the road. It's at Pittsburgh. The 49ers are only favored by 3. Yeah, I see the Pittsburgh Steelers possibly winning this game. And here's why. Because of their defense. Their defense makes you uncomfortable. And maybe Brock Purdy just gets a little jittery. And the Steelers, that defensive line, maybe they shake Brock Purdy up and it throws him off his rhythm. So that's why, even though I said the 49ers win, I see a situation where the Pittsburgh Steelers can come in and win this game. But I'm not going to pick the Steelers. I've already picked the 49ers to win this game. So the Steelers start the season 0-1. Yeah, that's going to upset Steelers fans. It's okay. Taking on the Cleveland Browns on Monday Night Football, that's going to be a win. Taking on the Las Vegas Raiders, I did say the Raiders were going to win because the Raiders seem to beat the Steelers a lot. So the Steelers going to start out 1-2. Taking on the Houston Texans. Did I pick the Texans in this game? I think that Steelers defense could really disrupt C.J. Stroud, and I think the Steelers win that game. Oh, this is going to be a huge game. October the 8th. And I really wish this was like a primetime game. Ravens and Steelers. These two teams hate each other. I just got finished watching the Bullies of Baltimore, that ESPN 30 for 30. And I will preview the Baltimore Ravens tomorrow. And let me tell you something. That team was special. And the Baltimore Ravens have always prided themselves like the Steelers. They have the same identity as the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this rivalry is fascinating. But I think the Steelers win this one to go 3-2. They take on the Rams in L.A. You know, the Rams are not a bad team. Matthew Stafford's healthy. He's going to be fine. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers end up losing this game. You know, the Steelers are going to be about a 500 team. I mean, I'm just coming out and just saying it. Probably going to lose to the Jaguars. I see them beating the Tennessee Titans on that Prime Video, beating the Packers in Pittsburgh. And then, I don't know. I think that the Browns might not be as good as we think they are. I think the Steelers might end up sweeping the Browns this year. And then the Steelers are going to split the series with the Bengals, but I see them losing to the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. They're going to beat the Cardinals. Not too sure about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots. That Prime Video game on the Prime Video game that's on December the 7th. I don't know. I don't know about that one, but I think the Steelers win that one. Steelers are going to beat the Colts. I mean, they're the better team. And they are going to lose to the Seahawks and lose to the Ravens. So let's tally up the wins, all right? All right, so they lose to the 49ers. They beat the Browns 1-2, 2-2. They're going to go 3-2, 3-3, 3-4, 4-4, 5-4, 6-4, 6-5, 7-5, 8-5, 9-5, 9-5, 10-5. So I'm picking the Steelers to go 10-7. It's not bad. Hey, at least I didn't pick them to go 9-8, just like every team that I picked in the NFC North. I mean, it is so hard to pick games. We don't know the truth until we start playing games. You know, we'll have a crazy situation like last year when the Houston Texans tied the Indianapolis Colts to start the year. Or I remember one year the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Colts and then they lost the rest of their games. I mean, so I've seen crazier things. I've seen the 2001 Carolina Panthers win their first game of the season and then they lose 15 straight. And then I saw the San Francisco 49ers in 2015 and 2016 win their opener. And I'm thinking, oh, the 49ers haven't skipped a beat. And then they had disasters of the seasons. So not a fan, but, you know, it is what it is. Hey, we got some local sporting events that's happening around the Chattahoochee Valley, starting with Wednesday night. The Columbus Chattahoots are in the Sun Belt Baseball League Championship against the Gainesville Gold Diggers as the Chattahoots try to win their first ever SBL championship. They have reached the championship game twice in the last 3 years. And this is what's going to happen. Game 1 is going to be first pitch 7:05 at historic Golden Park. Game 2 is going to be up in Gainesville Friday night, first pitch 6:35. As we're making that trip up to Gainesville, it's 3 hours away. You got to deal with the Atlanta traffic, and plus they have the 6:35 start. but you can catch the game on 106.9 and 99.1 as Tom Callahan is going to have the call. And then a game 3 on Saturday, if necessary, at historic Golden Park. First pitch 7:05. So we will know by this weekend who will be crowned SBL champions. Is it going to be the Gainesville Gold Diggers that have already won and they are the defending champions and you can never count out the heart of a champion? Or is it going to be the number 1 overall seed, the team that has played the best baseball all season long? They've had the best player all season long in Connor O'Neill, and they are hungry to get their first ever championship in the Fountain City. Who knows? We will find out. Thursday, August the 3rd, Harris County Little League is playing in the Southeast Regional Tournament down in Warner Robins. 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus. They are taking on West Virginia. And so good luck to the Harris County Little League team in the Southeast Regional. And then we also have high school media days this Friday for Muskogee County. As on my high school football preview review show, I'm going to reveal my top 10 teams for East Alabama and my top 10 teams for West Georgia. This is going to be my preseason rankings. I know that it was a pretty popular segment on my high school football show last year. Now, some schools didn't like it because they didn't like me ranking them so low. I think that Callaway actually got on to me for ranking them like 7th when they started the year 0-3. But yes, look who they played. But I was kind of just being generous, letting them be in my top 10. I mean, they were 0-3, but still had a amazing season and reached the second round of the playoffs. All right. It's time for that other break. When we come back, I'm going to reveal what I think my top 10 teams in college football is going to be. You don't want to miss it. It's a Sports Beat. We'll be right back. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. And yes, I am a podcast, but I'm also a radio show that's on a radio station in Noonan, Georgia, Monday through Friday from 2 to 3. And I am glad to be here. What episode is this? I'm just trying to see what we got here. As I got my phone right here. Oh, yes. This is episode 676. Just in case you're keeping score at home. Probably not keeping score at home. I'm getting closer to my 700th episode. I know how big these milestones were. I remember when I had my 500th episode live at Ivy Park Sports and Grill. That was a fun moment. And as I try to get sponsors for this show, I might do some live remotes. I've actually entertained the idea of doing a live remote at Local Grounds Coffee Company in LaGrange. And Ivy, I've done some shows there as well. So, stay tuned. I might have some live shows. But I just want to get a reminder out there. Stay tuned. This Sunday night is going to be the premiere of Georgia-Alabama Sports Live podcast, and me and Thrift Behringer are going to be doing that, recapping everything that's happened over the weekend, previewing the upcoming sporting events for the week. Should be a lot of fun. So check it out, and we're trying to get that thing off the ground, and it's really hit the ground running. Georgia-Alabama Sports Live has been everywhere. We've had the coaches' conversation, state of the program. We've already live streamed some All-Star Showcase games, Columbus Lions games, and so it's been a lot of fun, and I've really appreciated what Thrift Behringer has done with that, and I'm just blessed to work with him, and I cannot wait for this high school football season as we're going to be live streaming a lot of games, and so you want to stick around and see what we have in store for you. All right, so this is a fun segment that I actually did some research. I've been listening to, the experts in college football, mainly Josh Pate, because he is an expert when it comes to college football. I mean, come on. I'm just a guy born and raised in California that watched college football, but it wasn't like as big as the NFL in California. I'm a fan of college football, but I didn't eat, breathe, and sleep Stanford football when I was in California. I've lived in Georgia since 2006. I know how big college football is, especially in Columbus, Georgia. When you have Georgia, Auburn, and Alabama, and really Auburn's only 45 minutes from Columbus. So Columbus feels like an Auburn town, and Auburn is in the Chattahoochee Valley. I want to give Auburn their due. They got the new head football coach, Hugh Freeze. They are making moves in recruiting. I mean, they're flipping 5-star recruits from Alabama and Georgia. I mean, Hugh Freeze is hot on the recruiting trail, and I think that Auburn is going to have a huge season next year. I think they go 8-4 this year. They might even beat Alabama on the Plains. I don't know. It's crazy. Hugh Freeze is a wild card in the SEC West. But I'm going to reveal my top 10 teams in college football. And this is not based on who I think is going to win the national championship. No, this is based on who do I think is going to be in the AP and coaches poll that should be coming up in a couple of weeks. All right. I'm going to start with number 10. So, because I want to keep this in suspense. All right, number 10, Penn State. Head coach James Franklin, 11-2 last year. Yes, they only lost 2 games, Ohio State and Michigan were their only losses. Penn State's got to play Michigan this year, but it is in Happy Valley. I will see what happens. Penn State is going to be a good team this year. I mean, they got to play Ohio State, but it's in the horseshoe. Does Penn State finish the season with 2 losses again? Because I think that their Achilles heel is Michigan and Ohio State. But Penn State is going to go through some growing pains. I actually thought Penn State was a great football team last year when they throttled Auburn on the Plains. Once I saw that, I'm like, yeah, it's over. Penn State is a good football team. Sean Clifford, great quarterback. And James Franklin is a very underrated coach in the Big Ten. All right, number 9, Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a new quarterback, Sam Hartman. Even though Tommy Rees, their offensive coordinator, is now at Alabama, Marcus Freeman building something special at Notre Dame. I think that Notre Dame had a disappointing 9-4 season, but Notre Dame still recruits. They have a pretty easy schedule with the exception of having to play Ohio State, USC, and Clemson. I think that they could lose 3 games right there. But if they beat Ohio State, I think that Notre Dame is in play for the college football playoff. Number 8, and this is shocking a lot of people why I had them so high, Florida State. Yeah, I've had Florida State up here. They went 10-3 last year. Mike Norvell is a good coach. Jordan Travis is a Heisman candidate. I got Florida State ranked ahead of Clemson because I think Florida State's going to beat Clemson this year. Now, I don't know if they're going to beat LSU. I think that that's going to be a tough game. That first game of the season against LSU, I'm very excited about that game. But I think Florida State has got some good players. Jordan Travis is going to be able to make plays. And I got him on this list. I think that Florida State is going to be ranked ahead of Clemson. Now, people are probably wondering, where's Clemson on this list? Well, you're about to find out. All right, number 7, the USC Trojans. It's the perfect storm. Caleb Williams. Cliff Kingsbury is on this staff now. The USC Trojans, who 11-3 last year, if Caleb Williams didn't get hurt in the Pac-12 championship against Utah, USC's playing Georgia in the Peach Bowl and not Ohio State. I think that Caleb Williams is the best quarterback prospect to come out of the 2024 draft since Andrew Luck at Stanford. That's how much I'm a believer in Caleb Williams. Number 6, I'm a believer in Texas. I think that Texas in their final year in the Big 12, even though they play Alabama and Oklahoma is going to be better than their record last year, I think Texas has a shot. And Steve Sarkisian is the right guy. Remember, he started 4-8 in his first year. A lot of people were hitting the panic button. I mean, you know how impatient Texas fans can be. I mean, Tom Herman, Charlie Strong, I mean, you name it. If Texas wants to be back, because they're going to be in the SEC next year, I mean, they got the right recruits. Texas is a great state for 4- and 5-star athletes. And I think that Quinn Ewers is the quarterback to lead Texas into the top 10 and compete for a college football playoff. A.D. Mitchell is a reliable wide receiver. He hit the transfer portal from Georgia. Now he's at Texas, and we'll see. Number 5, the LSU Tigers. Brian Kelly in his second year. He's got Jalen Daniels. He's got Malik Neighbors. He's got a team that can rival Alabama when it comes to players on the line of scrimmage and skilled players. Now, LSU has a very tough game in Tuscaloosa against Alabama. But I think after they beat Florida State, LSU is just better than teams like Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Auburn, Florida. Florida has got it down here this year. I think LSU could compete, and if they can beat Alabama, or if they got to either hope that Bama loses 2 games, which that is highly likely. Alabama could lose at Auburn, but beat LSU. Alabama could beat LSU and lose to Auburn, and so you might have a situation where LSU is playing Georgia and Atlanta, and Alabama staying home because they have 2 losses, but they beat LSU. I mean, that's a possibility. I like LSU. Number 4, oh boy, now I'm going to start to ruffle some feathers now. The Alabama Crimson Tide. All right, bring it on. Let the comments roll down in the banner. Look, I'm not anti-Alabama. I think Alabama has been the most fascinating dynasty since Nick Saban took over the program in 2007. And it seems like they bring player after player after player in the NFL, and they just don't skip a beat. But this year is a little bit different because they don't have a surefire answer at quarterback like they did the last 4 quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, Bryce Young. They don't have that guy. I saw Bryce Young make plays with his feet and with his arm because he was the best player in college football last year. Alabama does not have that guy. Alabama is probably getting back to the smash mouth football that we're used to seeing Bama see. We're used to seeing them in the early 2010s with a stout defense and a ground and pound running game, just running it up and down the field with Eddie Lacy and TJ Yeldon and just run it down your throats like they did against Georgia in the 2012 SEC championship game. Bama had the number 1 recruiting class, and they do have some skilled players, and I like their running backs, Jael Billingsley and Jace McClellan. But I think that most of college football has caught up with Alabama because of the NIL and the transfer portal. Alabama's not going to be as dominant as they were in the early 2010s, rattling off back-to-back national championships. And with all due respect to Alabama, they've only won 2 national championships where they went undefeated. So what does that mean? That other teams had to lose for Bama to backdoor their way into either the BCS championship or the college football playoff. I got Alabama at 4, and for a reason. Number 3, Ohio State. Ohio State has the 2 best wide receivers in all of college football, in my opinion. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Emigba. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Ohio State looks incredible, and I believe they would have beat Georgia if Marvin Harrison Jr. did not get hurt in that game. No, they don't have C.J. Stroud anymore, but they don't need him because they don't drop off at quarterback. Like back when Ohio State had Terrell Pryor, oh, no problem, just put in Braxton Miller. You know, when they had J.T. Barrett, put in Dwayne Haskins, put in Justin Fields. Just insert quarterback that, you know, Ryan Day is going to recruit because let's be honest, I know that a lot of people are knocking Ryan Day because he's lost the last 2 games against Michigan. And by the way, that Michigan-Ohio State game is in the Big House. So once again, you got Notre Dame. That's going to be a big game. And you got Penn State and you got Michigan. These are games I'm going to be glued to the couch and I'm going to watch and break down and analyze. And it's going to be so much fun. All right, number 2, Michigan. Despite Jim Harbaugh being suspended for the first 4 games, I still think that Michigan is a dark horse to win the national championship. Now, they have to play Penn State in Happy Valley. If they could get over that hump, and if they are able to beat Penn State, which is going to be a very tall task because it is Happy Valley, they play Ohio State in the Big House. And then Michigan could run the table, get back to the college football playoff, avenge their loss against TCU, and possibly play my number 1 team in college football, the Georgia Bulldogs. The back-to-back national champions trying to go for a three-peat. In fact, they are the odds-on favorites to three-peat. Do they have any hurdles? Because I think they have one of the easiest schedules in all of college football. Even Tennessee. They got to play Tennessee in Knoxville. Are there any trap games for Georgia? I was looking at the schedule. I got criticized last year. I said on the Sports Beat last year that game against South Carolina, because Spencer Rattler was their quarterback, that was a trap game. And I heard it from Georgia fans. They were not too happy about that. Well, they play South Carolina in Athens this year, and it is in week 3. It's a CBS game at 3:30. What if they don't play their best game? Can the South Carolina Gamecocks under Shane Beamer, one of the hottest teams last year that knocked off Tennessee, that knocked off Clemson, can South Carolina pull off the upset? And then, Georgia still has like Ole Miss. They got Florida, even though I think that Florida is rebuilding this year. I'm not a believer in Graham Mertz as a quarterback. But that Tennessee game, I think that Georgia can lose that Tennessee game, still win the SEC, still get into the college football playoff with 1 loss. But, however, I came up with this scenario, and tell me what you think about this scenario. Let's say there is a 1-loss SEC champion, but at the end of the regular season, you have an undefeated Michigan that wins the Big Ten Conference. You have an undefeated Florida State that wins the ACC. You have an undefeated USC that wins the Pac-12. And you have an undefeated Texas that wins the Big 12. If this happens, this is what this means. Texas has got a quality win against Alabama. And Florida State's got a quality win against LSU, which means that Alabama and LSU, one of them is going to have 2 losses. So which team is it going to be? That is going to have the 1 loss. And does the SEC get left out of the college football playoff? Well, a couple of weeks ago, I had Philip Jordan on it. By the way, you could catch Philip Jordan on the Weekend Blitz Saturdays from 8 to 10. And I tuned into the show. It was a really good show. He had a lot of good guests. Philip Jordan came on my show and said he doesn't think so. He thinks that USC might get left out of the college football playoff if they're undefeated because of their strength of schedule. I'm wondering if the committee is going to look at that and say, well, an undefeated team in a Power 5 conference, how could a 1-loss SEC conference champion jump that undefeated Power 5 team? Simple. Strength of schedule. Schedule better. But Georgia is kind of in the same boat. They are in the SEC, but they did schedule Oklahoma. And that game got shifted because Oklahoma is going to be in the SEC next year because they did schedule a home and home. Boy, we have been flying by here on this show. I tell you, I could not do this show without just the support from everybody who has believed in me, my entire broadcasting career. When I started out as a young broadcaster at Freed-Hardeman University, I had a vision on what I wanted to do. I wanted to write about sports and call up sports. And then, I saw a couple of guys do a sports talk radio show, and I wanted to do sports talk radio. I've always wanted to do sports talk radio just because I have an opinion about sports. I love giving hot sports takes. And I don't mind just talking like this with you out there watching me on Facebook Live, watching me on YouTube Live, and then having a replay of this on WQEE the next day. I know that sometimes I'll have a show that's edited, so it'll be audio only, and I'll go in and I'll edit the audio, and then I'll give it to the station manager, and he'll play it on the radio station the next day. Or I can do an unscripted show where I don't have any takes and it's not edited, and I could just talk sports like this for an hour or so. So with that being said, I just want to thank everybody who has supported this show, and stay tuned for tomorrow's show, because this is what's going to happen. I plan to go live on Facebook and YouTube. It's going to be a post-game wrap-up show for the Columbus Chattahoots as they take on the Gainesville Gold Diggers in Game 1 of the SBL Finals at historic Golden Park. And admission is free, brought to you by Buffalo Rock and Pepsi. And enjoy $2 hot dogs and sodas. That's going to be pretty cool, too. And don't forget, the merch is coming, so make sure you like and subscribe to the channel as well. Hope everybody has a great rest of your night, and I'm out of here. Bye.